Hey everybody, Dr. Sean here with one of my favorite studies on a super interesting area pertaining to the microbiome and its role in mental illness. So this study was published back in 2019, February 6th edition of Science Advances 2019. Screenshot that and Google it so you can read the study and read other articles that help to explain it. I like people, if you can't read the study and understand it because you're not scientifically trained, it's okay. You can read an article about it. It's best to read a lot of science and read the actual published, at least the abstracts, so you can start figuring out things on your own and start formulating questions. Was it a good study or a bad study? But today I'm going to break it down for you. Okay? So in this study, the investigators wanted to know what role did gut microbes or germs play in mental illness, specifically schizophrenia. And what they did was they looked at humans with schizophrenia and they collected feces from them, and they looked at humans without schizophrenia and took feces from them. Then they took these samples of feces and put them individually into mice. The mice that got the feces from schizophrenics developed schizophrenic behavior, or schizophrenia, as best as a human can diagnose it in a rat. They started behaving schizophrenically. Not only that, but they saw that they had those microbes growing in them that were only unique to the humans that had schizophrenia. And the normal feces from normal humans did not cause that growth and did not cause the schizophrenic behavior. So what does that mean? That germs are responsible for causing schizophrenia or mental illness? Maybe, but the better question is to say that there's some association. So you might be asking, well, why haven't I heard about this study? Or why hasn't this been figured out before? I was asking those kind of questions. One key point is these mice were germ-free. So what that means is they completely disrupted the microbiomes, the natural microbiomes of these mice, leaving them uniquely vulnerable to any other microbes that came in. So in other words, because these mice did not have a healthy microbiome in their gut, whatever got transplanted in there had an advantage, okay? So it kind of facilitated those microbes setting up camp and living, residing, and influencing those mice. Now, in the average, normal, healthy mice, they probably would not have had, but that wasn't the study. They purposely made them vulnerable. But here's the important implication. Does this mean if you don't have a really robust microbiome, or maybe it's just a little bit reduced, are you more vulnerable, therefore, to developing schizophrenia, other mental illnesses, and other diseases in general? Because your microbiome isn't intact to battle with and push away those other newcomers, those new microbes. And I believe the answer resoundingly is yes. I think you have an increased risk for developing mental illness and other mental conditions and other disease in general if you're exposed to microbes in your environment that get into your gastrointestinal tract and you have a deficient microbiome. So my recommendations for those that are following here is to be, one, as healthy as possible. So you're resistant as much as possible to disease processes that are abundant in our world today. But in particular, for you to concentrate on optimizing your microbiome. You need to think of your microbiome as an asset, a really key part of your health. In fact, if I was to say, one thing you want to optimize more than anything else and pay attention to, it's your microbiome, because it influences and has a role in visceral fat too. So your microbiome, things that disrupt your microbiome also disrupt your visceral fat. And you know I'm a big believer in visceral fat. Start off with visceral fat because it's something it's a little bit more tangible. I can show MRI images. The microbiome, not so much. I mean, there's sequences and genetic evaluations and culturing and things that make it a little bit more abstract. So I started off with the visceral fat, but now I'm going to start pivoting more to the microbiome. I'm not giving up on visceral fat. You're going to see me talking about visceral fat all the time and other important biomarkers. But the microbiome is really, really important. And the smart man or woman today, after listening to this, is going to start paying more attention to it, because the suggestion, the possibility of just simply touching something, okay? Touching a cart in a shopping mall or a grocery store, Walmart, Target, you're going to be exposed to microbes from other people who may have had schizophrenia, may have depression, may have some other mental condition, may have inflammatory bowel disease. We just don't really know the extent to which these microbes are playing a role, and how significant of a role, in the onset of disease within human beings. I'm going to posit for those listening today that it is far more significant than we understand, simply because of the limitations of science presently. To investigate these roles and look at them, we're only just starting to scratch the surface, the tip of the iceberg on this enormous problem. But I also want you to understand and think of it as not necessarily a problem, but an opportunity. I'm the type of guy who looks at a glass as half full, okay? I look at the positive signs. The microbiome is awesome. You should not be afraid of microbes out there. Some people have this phobia, a mental illness in its own right, where they're just terrified of germs. Most germs out there are probably benign, don't have a significant contribution for you to be afraid of, and many of them are going to be really, really important, really beneficial. And some, of course, are going to be, as you know, germs cause disease, problematic. So in my opinion, your best way to guard against germs are to have tons and tons of super healthy ones all over your body and inside your body. Pretty simple concept. Let me repeat it again. You want the most amount of beneficial microbes on your body and in your body as you can get. Not only quantity, but diversity. The best example I can give is an African safari. An African safari's health, the health of the safari, is predicated upon the diversity and the health of the individual species that live within the safari. If you eliminate 90% of species and you just bring it down to lions and tigers and one set of grazers like the zebra, that safari is not going to be nearly as healthy as the diverse safari that we see now. Or you could also use the Amazonian rainforest. The jungles down there, fantastically diversified array of species of microbes. So too with your gut. About anywhere from 30 to 70 trillion or maybe more microbes reside in your gut. And species like fungi, yeast, archaea, bacteria, viruses, and all told number of different microbes or forms of life that we don't maybe even know about yet, that we're still investigating. So there's a lot of work to do. But I am kind of frustrated. A lot of physicians have simply given up on the microbiome because it's too complex and don't want anything to do about it. No, it's too much of an opportunity. Begin fundamentally doing some basic things. First, stop harming your microbiome. So how do you harm it? You harm it with chemicals. Anything that's harmful to potential microbes on a petri dish are going to be potentially harmful to microbes within your gut. So things like chlorine, chlorinated water, and food preservatives from processed foods that keep food fresh and from becoming stale. If they're going to keep food from becoming stale by suppressing bacterial growth in the package, they're going to do that in your gut. Now, these food preservatives are evaluated for their effect on human health, not your gut microbes. So the fact that your gut microbes get disrupted don't count for, unfortunately, any credibility with the FDA. And so other bodies, organizations looking at food preservatives and what goes into food are not taking that into consideration, but they should, and you need to. So It's yet another link and explanation why you don't want to be eating processed foods, because the chemical additives, the food additives, and by virtue of the macronutrient compounds that are in there, usually processed carbs and the seed oils and all these other things, you are freaking crazy if you're eating processed foods. Now, you may think that's over the top, and there may be some MDs out there right now in social media who think I am ridiculous, but you simply haven't studied the harm. And I'm just positing that people should eliminate processed foods and eliminate this potential impact on their microbiome and see what happens. When I do that with my clients that I work with, my client patients, they optimize their health. They become dramatically healthier and move ahead in ways away from disease that they hadn't been able to before. So the microbiome is this wonderful, super exciting area to be working on, trying to optimize yourself. So I talked about chlorine, I talked about food preservatives. Another one you need to be very cautious about are antibiotics and the role that antibiotics have played, depending on when you took them, with obesity. We are now seeing the earlier and the more indiscriminate use of antibiotics, we see the greater the likelihood of obesity later in life, and the greater likelihood of depression and diabetes. So antibiotics, I'm not saying don't take antibiotics. I'm saying only take them when they're really indicated. How many mothers have been in front of me as a physician demanding an antibiotic for their child, and my hands are like shaking with sweat, like, oh my God, they know not what they are asking for. And if you've done that in the past, it's water through the dam now, okay? It's over. So you need to concentrate on optimizing your microbiome and improving it, but just be very cautious about any use of antibiotics unless it's really, really indicated. Most people really healthy don't need antibiotics because they're used for the wrong reasons for viruses and other things. But you don't really need to be using antibiotics as much as they're used today. So be careful about that. And then other things that could potentially harm your microbiome. You need to read about your microbiome, fall in love with your microbiome. Other things to do besides avoiding things that harm it, you need to do things that help it. So what helps it? First of all, add to the collection of good guys. My favorite strategy for doing that is to eat fermented foods. Kimchi, kvass, sauerkraut, but it has to be raw, cultured, live, probiotic, living. These kind of words have to be on it. Don't you go get a jar of glass sauerkraut and think it's sitting on a shelf that is fermented. It's not. It is pasteurized and they cook off the microbes. Fermented foods are always sold in a refrigerated section in your favorite food store. Okay, food co-ops tend to have really good supplies of fermented foods. Let me give you a tip. Also, apple cider vinegar is another one. Apple cider vinegar. And must say probiotic and must say with the mother on it. And other forms of fermented food are fermented dairy. So kefir and yogurt and sour cream, but plain, unsweetened, non-homogenized, 100% grass-fed, 100% grass-finished. Those things make it better. Don't get a bunch. You know how you can tell if something's grass-fed or not? Because if it's not, it's white as a sheet of paper. Just like a sheet of paper, white. The milk is white, everything is white. The sour cream, the whole cream is white. Grass-fed, it's got beautiful omega-3 compounds, so it has a French vanilla, a yellow look to it. So you want to eat that. No fruit, no sugar, no flavoring of any kind. Suck it up, buttercup. You're going to be better off if you're not eating all that crappy food like a 2-year-old or 3-year-old. First of all, no 2-year-old, 3-year-old should be eating that kind of food. If you're watching my videos, okay, don't have anything to do that. So when it comes to selecting these microbes, keep in mind they're alive. They're not pasteurized, these fermented foods. So you want to get those in the healthiest condition, okay? Nobody talks about this, but when this fermentation happens, it happens in the dark because it's going to go in your gut and there's no light in there, okay? There's no LEDs down there, no incandescent light bulbs, no sunshine getting through. So you want it dark. And when sauerkraut and kvass and kimchi is being fermented, it's in a dark area. if you try to ferment it in light, sunshine, it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't work. It would kill those microbes. So a big problem in today's stores, all those fermented foods are on the shelves with all these bright lights shining on them. Okay, so you're falling short on a mirror. Everybody's know it, because how you're gonna shop for those fermented microbes is you're gonna open up that door, you're gonna reach way in the back of that shelf, okay? Get those jars of microbes in the very back where it has the least amount of exposure to light, okay? Nobody's talking about this because nobody's doing studies, and just because it's healthy food, you know, it's probiotic, it's fermented, doesn't mean that company exists to make you more healthy. They exist for one reason: make money. They're like a lot of other companies making money. They don't say, how can we make this more nutritious and stuff? Because when you're walking in the door, you're not thinking that. You're not purchasing for the most nutritious ones. If you were and they knew that, then they put it in a brown bottle, keep it in light protected containers, but that costs more money. So they put it in clear glass, and all the light is disrupting it. So reach in the back, get it. Same thing with your apple cider vinegar, reach in the back. That's one exception. It has living microbes and it's not refrigerated. So that's the one exception about fermented foods that's on a shelf, but you still reach in the back. And when you store these things in your refrigerator, don't worry, the light goes out when you close the door if you don't know that. And apple cider vinegar goes in a counter, in a cupboard where there's no light exposure, okay? Some other things are blue cheese. I really like fermented blue cheese. Interesting to know about blue cheese, I hated it. It would make me nauseated, couldn't stand it, wouldn't have anything to do with it. Same thing with kimchi. I hated that one so bad. I could tell you some things, how much I hate it, but you'd stop following me. You really would. Oh my God, I hated kimchi. But now I love it. I eat it all the time. I eat fermented vegetables all the time. And it's because those microbes have gotten in me and I'm used to them, and they help me like it, okay? So if you're somebody that's listening today and you hate fermented vegetables, the way to overcome this is you want to put your finger in a little bit, just dip your finger in a little bit of that juice, lick it and swallow it with some non-chlorinated water, spring water, okay? Just get it down and get tiny bits, and over a period of time, those microbes will start living a little tiny strand, eventually of kimchi or fermented beets. Put it down there, chew it, swallow it with non-chlorinated spring water. Get those microbes in there living, and the more they start living in you, the better you'll be able to tolerate it. These microbes, they're at war with each other. The ones down there, they're gonna warn you that they don't want the other guys joining them, and so they make you not like that taste. They make you hate the smell. They make you hate the concept. You're the boss. You tell them otherwise. You take a little bit, put it in your mouth, chew it up and swallow it. And when you're eating meat, you're eating your meals, chew them together, okay? These microbes are awesome. You put the meat in your mouth, you put a piece of the fermented vegetables or fermented fruit or whatever it is that you're using is fermented, and you chew them together, okay? You masticate them together. You're interspersing these beneficial microbes into the meat, so you create this chewed up food bolus of softened food, softened meat that you swallow down there. And just the opposite, okay, happens if you're not doing this. If you're putting meat in your mouth and you got a funky mouth, a tongue that's coated with paste, not clean, that has this thick white paste on it, a biofilm, a slurry of nasty, disgusting, pathogenic microbes in your mouth and in your teeth, you put that meat in there and you're chewing it and mixing all that those bad microbes, and you got dental caries, you got pus in between your teeth, your gingivitis, all sorts of, you got bad breath. Good God, if you have bad breath and these things going on and you're putting meat in, chewing it and swallowing this food, you're just creating badness that goes into your gut. Wake up! Nobody's talking about this, but I am. I figure out, because I'm the guy who lays in bed at night thinking of ways to make people awesome, how to help people overcome chronic disease. So you got to use these strategies. You want to create the healthiest mouth and your possible oropharyngeal environment as you possibly can. And I'll have to do a whole nother video on this, but this kind of a big oversight on this interesting topic so that you can really get excited about the microbiome, and believe me, hold on to your seat. it's going to get super exciting. All right, well, as usual, I invite you to comment if you have any questions, put them in there, and give it a like if you like this video. I'm trying to get more followers. I'm trying to, YouTube will send this to more people. It has more likes, okay? And whatever money I get from this thing, I put it into my charity so I can do more videos to share with kids in high school, college, and first responders and veterans, and the marginalized in society, how to become more healthy, so we can start turning the tide against chronic disease in our country. And of course, if you want to make a donation to my 501c3 educational charity, get a hold of me and let me know. I'm building that website. I'm a one-man band. Nobody's made it. I haven't got any money yet. Nobody's made any contributions, so it takes money. I've met with 2 attorneys. I've met with 2 accountants. This is expensive business. IT people, it's expensive. So it's taking me a while to put it together. Anyway, so help me out if you can. And if you like this video, can you think of somebody else that you like, that you could send this to and share this and spread it around so they get the benefits of understanding more about the microbiome. And let me take the time to thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to producing many more videos to help you optimize your life and optimize your body and live an awesome life. Dr. Sean out.